we now know who did the Navy Yard shootings. That's Aaron Alexis. Now the question is, who is this guy? And right now the authorities do not have any motives per se. We do know that he is a person who had some demons that he was fighting. Now, there's a lot of different reports about him. Some say that he was a very friendly neighbor, a really good guy, kind of geeky, but overall very, very pleasant. Now, that's what they used to say all the time back in the day about serial killers. They'd go interview their neighbors and they'd say, oh, he was such a sweet guy. Now, lately in the press reports, I haven't seen too much of that. Usually when there's a mass shooter, people are like, yeah, you know what? He was a real weirdo, and then we thought he might do something. In this case, not necessarily. It depends on how you knew Aaron Alexis. So, yes, there was a situation described as, quote, a host of serious mental issues, including paranoia and a sleep disorder, and that, quote, he had been hearing voices in his head. Well, that would be a significant problem. Now, he also had 2 previous shootings. So that's very interesting because he has security clearance here at the Navy Yard, of course. And he actually was in the Navy until he was kicked out. And he was kicked out because of a disorderly conduct charge that actually didn't have anything to do with the 2 previous shootings. So in one of the shootings, he shot through the roof at a neighbor that he thought was making too much noise. He claimed later that he was cleaning his gun and that that's what had happened. But it seemed that he had been complaining about loud noises from the neighbor for a long time, and the shooting was at the very least incredibly suspicious. Another time, he apparently got very angry about a parking spot, and after eyeing the guys for about a month, apparently, he finally went out and shot 3 times at their tires on a parked car while they were there. So these are some pretty serious incidents, but yet he still had access to a gun, which he actually bought a shotgun legally very recently. So yet another case of someone being able to buy a gun when they should have no business buying a gun. But hey, it's America. Everybody's got a gun, right? So now, part of the other problems with him was in the second shooting, he talked about blackouts. Let me give you a direct quote here. Alexis also claimed he had an anger-fueled blackout and could not remember firing his gun at the victim's vehicle until an hour after the incident. Now, if you have an anger-fueled blackout where you shoot at things, I would just kind of put a mark on that and say that's an issue that, you know, whether you believe him or not, he shot at those at that car with those people nearby. That's a fact. Whether you believe that he was blacked out is a different story, but either way, it sounds massively dangerous. Now, what's interesting is the other side of this, where people saw him and thought, no, lovely guy. He worked at a Thai restaurant recently in Texas. Susie Bradley says he was the sweetest, outgoing guy there was. It's like they say, you never know. It's really shocking all of us. Other people saying that he was, quote, very friendly and neighborly. Others describing him as real chipper, real hip. And then reporters talked to Kevin McDaniel. And Kevin McDaniel is a guy who wound up buying a lot of his furniture. He said just a couple of weeks ago, Aaron Alexis came in there and said, hey, you know what? I'm moving to D.C. And he said he was super excited about it, seemed really happy about it, and sold his furniture to McDaniel. And McDaniel says this of him. The only thing I saw strange about him is that he knew how to speak Thai. I'm sort of a white boy. I would have invited him over to Christmas dinner. He's just that nice of a guy, which I find to be one of the strangest quotes I've heard in a while. The fact that he mentioned that he was a white guy in the middle was related to the black guy speaking Thai, or the fact that he would have even invited a black guy to Christmas dinner. That's how nice he was. I'm not sure. Not holding it against Kevin McDaniel. It was just a funny way of putting it. And then he also added this. We talk about jihadists and stuff. He seemed just as disgusted with them as I am and everybody else in the United States. Now, apparently Kevin is flummoxed that a guy who hates jihadists wound up doing a shooting like this. Now, look, the shooting is abhorrent and terrorizes folks, so I guess there's some logic in being surprised at that, certainly, right? But I don't think that he is a jihadist in any way, and that's actually what's throwing people for a loop here. Well, we don't get it. He's not the typical guy who does mass shootings. Those usually fall within 2 categories. One is what people describe as terrorists, and a lot of times Arabs and Muslims are put into that category. Also, Christian right-wing fundamentalists are in that category that do abortion bombings, shoot abortion doctors, and there was the right-winger who went and shot the Holocaust Museum up, etc., right? And then there's the other category, which is just insane folks. And usually they happen to be white, but there's really no reason they have to be white. Of course! And in this case, it just happens to be a black guy who looks like he was crazy at times. And those times are pivotal, like the time that he went and shot and killed 12 people in a Navy yard.